Our journey to Liverpool was a whole new experience. Welcome back, guys. So the next morning, we just packed up the little things we could lay our hands on and we went to Liverpool. We went to see him. So when we got there, we saw his room. It was even the point where they were about taking him for his scan. They went to check his heart. You know, this was the same test they had already done in our hospital, but they had to do it again in Liverpool just to be sure. In fact, the doctor told me that, you know, when they called them to say that they saw some things and all that, they were just not sure. They wanted to do it themselves to be sure that everything is fine. They checked his heart, everything was fine. My husband even went with them to the place and I stayed in the room with the other children. After they did the scan, everything was fine. They came back to the ward, you know, in his room, and he still had all those infusions on, about 2 of them. He even had the central line and all that. This was the same thing they had done in the hospital. You know, at some point in our hospital, I forgot to mention that they had to take him out of the incubator to a normal bed, right? So I was like, everything was fine. I was happy that he was doing well, only for them to just hit us with that, you know, Liverpool and everything. So you can imagine the shock that came with that. Right, you know, I was scared at that point. I just didn't know what to expect, you know. But after they explained to us at that hospital that bringing him to Liverpool was going to be the best thing for him, because they were always calling them to ask the next thing to do, it was just better they brought him there so they could, you know, see him directly and give him the best attention and care that he needed. Okay, so moving to Liverpool, I actually realized that that was actually the best thing. In fact, that was when I now said, why didn't we move to Liverpool all this while? Why did we have to stay a whole week before moving him there? Anyways, while we're in Liverpool, they kept doing what they were doing. They kept checking his BMs, I think every 2 hours or so, and they measured his feet as well. I still couldn't breastfeed him. I was still, you know, pumping breast milk and giving it to them there. You know, they would now measure it and give him the required measurement. They were going to give him a medication, that they had a medication for it, so that there was hope, everything was going to be fine. They kept reassuring us, but they didn't start the medication, they didn't start the treatment immediately. They still did everything that they had done in our hospital, and the reason, according to them, was that they wanted to give him the benefit of doubt. They wanted to see if his body could just fight it naturally, if he would overcome it and all that. In fact, the doctor said that he was having signs. They felt like his body could overcome it naturally, so they wanted to give him the benefit of doubt. So they did everything that they had done before, but it just didn't work, so they started the medication. Right, while we're in Liverpool, they even gave us an accommodation. This accommodation that is run by a charity where we stayed, you know, a room. That place is very beautiful, I must say. And they also had, in the room where he was, they had an accommodation for 1 parent. So I could stay with him and my husband could stay with him, while the other parent would stay with the children in the accommodation provided by the charity. So, you know, that was a plus for us. That was a relief for us. So we didn't have to spend money on hotels or Airbnbs and all that. So we had a place to lay our heads. It was a relief for us. We could spend the night there at Liverpool, you know. So we're just going back and forth. We'll spend some nights there, come back home, restock with food, you know, take change of clothes, go back. So we kept doing that. And the baby was, you know, doing well as well. He was doing fine, responding to all the treatments. They started his medications. So while we're there, I was always tired. But I just couldn't really sleep because I had 2 other children to deal with. In fact, the nurses there were always, you know, pitying me. They'll be like, oh, mom, you need to sleep. Mom, you need to rest, because I was always tired. I was always weak. You can imagine just being on the road after having a baby, right? So all that didn't really matter to me. All that mattered to me was just for my baby to get well and for me to be able to go home with my child as soon as possible, right? And at that point, nobody would even tell you when you're going home. They'll tell you, don't worry, why are you worrying about that? The baby would go home when he's well. He's here because he's unwell. He's here because he has to be here, right? So when he's fine, he would go home, don't worry. Okay, so we didn't know how long we were going to spend at Liverpool. That was even the most annoying part of the whole thing. Okay, it was just frustrating. It was tiring, going back and forth with other children. It was just a lot on me and my husband. It was exhausting for us, but thank God for the friend we have in Liverpool. You know, she and her family would always bring food for us, and our friends from here as well would bring food for us. Anytime we come back, there's this friend of mine that will ask me, please, anytime you're coming back, let me know. So once we land here, she will pack food for us, food that we'll take there. It made the whole thing a lot more easier for us. We didn't have to spend all our money eating out, because you guys, eating out can be a lot. By the way, I forgot to mention that we were at Al-Dahej Children's Hospital in Liverpool. So everything was just going well. We're just treating him. We was, you know, responding to treatment. He was doing well. At a point, that's they weaning him off those infusions. They wanted to take him off the whole drips just to see. They tried everything, you know, followed the procedure, tried. He was responding. Everything was working fine. They successfully weaned him off the first one. They now weaned him off the second one. You know, it was successful. At this point, they had started the medication for him, and everything was just going on well. Was responding to the treatments. They successfully weaned him off everything, weaned him off the drip. Okay, so I could now carry my baby without all the wires that followed him. So I didn't have to sit closer to his bed anymore. I could now carry him out of his bed to the chair. You know, it felt so good. This was the first time after a long while, because before they moved him, remember, I was still in bed. I was still numb. I was still weak. I couldn't really move about, so I couldn't even carry him that much. Okay, so this was actually the first time that I could carry my baby from the bed and sit down on a chair after about, was it about 15 days or 16 days or thereabout? I can't really remember the exact day. But at that point, it felt really good for me and my family. You know, it was like, you know, God has come through for us. Our prayers are being answered. So the final stage to check that he was well was for him to pass through a fast period. He was going to go on a fast for 6 hours. Imagine a newborn baby staying without food for 6 whole hours. Even for adults, some adults can't even stay without food for 6 hours, let alone a baby. But he had to do that just to be sure that everything was going on fine. Apparently, when he was born, they said his body produced a lot of insulin. That was what led to his blood sugar being low, because the pregnancy was pretty much smooth. Everything went fine. All the tests I did was fine. I didn't have any blood sugar issues. All my tests came out fine. I was good. He met all his milestones as a baby in the womb and all that. So everything was really going on fine in the womb until his birth, and they say that he was now at birth. You know, according to them, when a baby is born, you know, the body tries to adjust and all that. So he was now in that process that his body produced a whole lot of insulin, and that was why his blood sugar was low. Right, you know, that was the explanation. Medical people will be able to explain it better with the medical terms and all that, right? But this was what I understood from it. So finally, they had to check to see that his body has started, that everything has normalized, that his body wasn't producing that much insulin again, that the medication was working, and that everything was fine, and that his body could maintain his blood sugar to be normal, okay, normal like every other person. So guys, remember that they were always checking his blood sugar. They kept doing it every 1 hour. At a point, it became every 2 hours. At the point, it became every 3 hours. Guys, my baby's feet was sore. Anytime they come to do it like this, at a point I couldn't even look at them anymore, because this boy was in so much pain at a young age. Okay, but yeah, he's a fighter, he's a strong boy, and I give God all the glory. So when it was time for him to have the fast, we had gone home that night just to prepare and come back the next morning so that we could be with him doing the fast, so that we could carry him when he's crying, cuddle him and all that. So they gave him his last feed for that day for 6 a.m. to stay without food for the next 6 hours. Next time he was meant to have food after that fast was 1 p.m. right? Now they kept checking his blood sugar every 1 hour during that period, just to be sure that he didn't drop it at any point, since he was going to be staying without food, right? So they kept checking his blood sugar, you know, pricking his feet, checking it every hour, and thankfully he maintained it. Everything was fine. Guys, I prayed. for that 6 hours. I'm like, this boy is going to pass this test. In fact, this boy is fine. I was even thinking, I was telling my husband, like, what would we even do if he doesn't pass this test? If after 6 hours this boy doesn't pass this test, are we going to remain here forever? Remember that my daughter even had to go to school. My husband was away from work for like 1 month. That period, he didn't go to work. Like, you know, it was just traumatizing. It was too stressful at this point. We're like, let's just go home. If we go home, anyhow we do, you guys, we just wanted to go home at that point because it was just too much for us. And we were just alone, no help, nothing. It was just us. And we're like, we just wanted to go home. So imagine if after 6 hours, this boy didn't pass this fast. They will still keep him in that hospital. Guys, that 6 hours was like the longest 6 hours for us, because I was praying, I was believing God that this boy would pass this fast, right? So of course he cried at some point. He cried, cuddled him, he stayed, but eventually 6 hours passed. By 1 p.m. they gave him his feeds, and throughout that time they kept checking his blood sugar, and thankfully it didn't go low, it didn't drop. He maintained it, everything was normal. He passed that fast, he passed that test, and I was like, thank God. And I was so grateful to God. I was just jumping up. I'm like, oh God, thank you. So the doctors came around to see us, because they were always coming to see us, discuss his progress with us and all that. All the consultants in charge, everybody in charge, the doctors, the nurses, they were always coming to discuss with us and tell us the progress, discuss everything with us, you know, from time to time. But after he passed the test, we now asked them what's the way forward. They said they still had to monitor him for some time, for that whole day, and then try to now transition him from bottle to breast milk, because they asked me how I wanted to feed. I told them that I breastfeed all my kids. I actually even do exclusive for all my children. So that was how I wanted to feed him. So they now, like, I had to now start establishing that relationship with him, trying to take him off the bottle to now start feeding directly from the breast can be difficult. So we need to start that as well. One is even another story altogether, because it was really painful. I didn't know it was going to be that stressful. I thought it was going to be even easy, like pick up the baby, put him on the breast and he would feed. But guys, it was difficult. Imagine a baby that has been feeding on the bottle since he was born. He was trying to get used to it. You now want to take him off the bottle and introduce something new to him. Okay, that was a bit more difficult. Thankfully, we're able to do it. I kept trying every time it was time for him to have a feed, because, you know, he was still on hourly feeds or 2 hourly feeds or something. You know, I kept trying anytime it was time for him to have a feed, and thankfully it went well. And it was time for us to go home. In fact, at that point, they didn't even want to discharge us, because I think it was the weekend or something. So the doctor said, if I don't discharge you guys this Friday, you guys will have to stay here till Monday. We're like, no. She asked me, have you been able to establish feeding? We want to be sure of that. They brought, you know, dietitian, breast milk specialist, all those people, everybody. I told them that we are fine. When we get home, breastfeeding. In fact, at that point, I just wanted to go home. I'm like, you guys, this baby is fine, right? He has passed all the tests. Everything is fine. It's just breastfeeding that's remaining. We will be fine. He will breastfeed. Even if he doesn't breastfeed, I'll give him bottle at home. But you guys, let's just go home, because it was just a lot for us. Thankfully, that Friday, we were discharged. They did all the paperwork, everything. Doctors even came around, spoke to us. I was just crying, guys. I couldn't believe that finally we'll be going home, you know. But thank God that everything went fine. He became fine, and then we were discharged. Finally, we were discharged and ready to go home. And guys, this story won't be complete if I don't mention the fact that the NHS really tried for us. Those guys are really doing well. Thank God for the NHS. I feel like NHS is really a blessing to the UK. You know, you will never know until you are there. Throughout this period, these guys were really taking care of us. Remember that there was a point where we're not even with him at the hospital and he was fine. They provided all the diaper he needed, all the milk he had. Nobody even asked us to bring milk. They gave it to him, all the diaper he had, even clothes. You know, it was even me that decided to be giving him clothes, because I just wanted him to wear the clothes I bought for him. So I would pack clothes from my house to them in the hospital. I didn't want him to wear the hospital clothes. I wanted him to wear the clothes I bought. So even though they had clothes for him at the hospital, I still took my clothes, caps, everything, shower, everything to them at the hospital. So my baby would have just been fine, even with without us being there or without us buying anything for him. They provided everything he needed from A to Z, and they really took care of us. While I was here at the hospital in the maternity ward, they took care of me, you know, pain meds. They gave me breakfast, lunch, and dinner. They would ask you to take anything you want, go to the kitchen. If you call for anything, they would attend to you. They were really professional and nice. I must mention that. Guys, at Al Dahe, their niceness and professionalism was on another level. And that hospital is so fine. In fact, that was the first thing I noticed when I got there. The hospital is really beautiful and everything just went fine. They provided us with breakfast, lunch, and dinner as well. They will ask you what you wanted, even though it wasn't really enough for us because, of course, we're a family of 4, 2 children, myself and my husband. There's no way they will be able to feed all of us, but they still tried. And they were really nice. The staff, the nurses, the doctors, everybody, you know, they were all nice. Even those that were not even the medical team, they were really nice, and they had good food there that we could buy as well. Guys, that hospital is fine. I must give it to the NHS. You know, they really tried. When we even mentioned to some of our friends that were in the hospital, mentioned what we're going through, they were asking us, do you have insurance? They were even asking us, oh, we just wonder how much you guys are going to pay and all that. But guys, we went through all this. We didn't pay a dime. Even at the charity hall where we stayed, we didn't pay anything. It was for free. We just had to pay £30 deposit that was refundable if you wanted, okay? But, you know, the experience was really a beautiful one. Even though what took us there was not a good one, was not a beautiful one, but the whole experience, you know, the whole staff, the whole thing, you know, it made everything a whole lot easier for us. It was because the environment was friendly and everybody was really friendly. They were really helpful. If you've been to Al Dahe Hospital in Liverpool, please let me know in the comment section and let me know your thoughts about the hospital as well. So yeah, this was our experience. And to even think that I was considering going to the US to have a baby. Yes, someone suggested it to me, not even one person, about 2 or 3 people suggested going to the US for me, and I was even considering it. Thank God I didn't even consider it too much. I was like, Nico, no, leave me with my UK here. And I'm so glad that everything happened the way it happened. And today I'm back home with my baby. He's strong, he's healthy, everyone is fine. And I give God all the glory. I give God all the praise. And I also want to say thank you to everybody who has been there for us, showing us support. You know, I want to say thank you. So guys, please be kind to people, okay? Learn to take it easy on people. You really don't know what people are going through at every point in their life. Just because they didn't tell you, you know, how they feel or what they are going through doesn't mean that everything is okay with them. So please be kind to people. Take it easy on people sometimes. Try to make excuses for people. Try to check on your friends. Try to check on your friends, your relatives and well-wishers. Don't just assume that they are not responding to you or they've forgotten you. They might be going through something that you just don't know. So please, let's be nicer to people. All right. So yeah, thank you to the NHS UK. Thank you to our friends and family. Thank you to everyone on YouTube for your congratulatory messages, your well wishes, your prayers. You know, thank you so much. I really appreciate. We are grateful to you guys, and I'll see you all in my next one. Bye bye.